A movie a day keeps the boredom away. This is Adam, and we talk movies. And today, we're talking about Quentin Tarantino movies ranked from the worst to the best. Starting off last place is Jackie Brown. You don't care for a story if you don't care for the characters. And although well acted, Samuel L. Jackson, Robert De Niro, pretty well written dialogue, I just feel this movie doesn't make you feel for the characters. And out of every movie on this list I'm going to talk about, this is the only movie that I should give a negative score to. I just wasn't a big fan of Jackie Brown. Next up is Reservoir Dogs, and this is his first film. And for his first film, I think he did a great job. It's about a heist that goes wrong. Very little heist in it, though, except for the aftermath at the end of the movie. It only takes place in about 3 different sets. But the way he writes his dialogue, it keeps you involved with the story. And this is just a template of what he later perfects in later movies. The reason it comes in this place is because I base my rankings off of rewatchability. And out of all the movies on this list, I think this is the movie that I would be least likely to rewatch. Next up is Death Proof. And just like Jackie Brown, in this film, you don't care for the characters. And you kind of have to care for the characters if these characters are going to die. And maybe more so in this one rather than Jackie Brown. I care even less about these characters. The reason that this is 2 slots higher is because Kurt Russell, I think, brings this movie a lot of fun. Although he's in it very little, the moments he is in it, it's just a whole lot of fun. And the action that we do get at the end, again, very little. It's a very good action set piece, and I just had a good time with it, to be honest with you. And that's why it comes into this spot. Next is Kill Bill and Kill Bill Volume 2. I'm going to cheat a little bit because in my eyes, this is just one big story. And it's a great story. It's a revenge story, and that's what it is. I personally like Volume 2 better than Volume 1 because there's a conclusion. The first one, I feel like the first action fight scene was actually the best, and from there on, the fights only decline. Not that they get bad, but I just feel like the first fight scene was the best out of the whole movie. Moving into Volume 2, there's better action, there's, better story, and there's a conclusion to this story. And I think the conclusion is a very satisfying end for this character, and that's why, these 2 movies come about middle way on this list. Coming into our top 5 is going to be Inglourious Basterds. Now, Inglourious Basterds, I think, is a phenomenal movie. The way Quentin Tarantino is able to build tension by just 2 people sitting at a table is magnificent, and that's what it is. The whole movie is him building tension in certain scenes. That first scene in this movie is a very long scene, but he creates tension by them just sitting there, and I never got bored with the scene. I was all into it, waiting to see what was going to happen at the end of this scene, and that's what this is. Phenomenal acting all around, and the tension building in this movie is fantastic, and once again, it's a revenge story, and that's what I like about it, and so that's why it comes into top 5. Next up is Hateful Eight. Now, this may be a bit of a hot take because a lot of people probably have this lower on the list. It's a damn near 3-hour movie, but you know what? I loved every single second of it. You got a lot of Quentin Tarantino's dialogue in this movie, a lot of talking, and for some people it can be too much, and I hate to say it, but I loved it. The whole movie, it kept me involved, it kept me interested in the story. It was very smartly written, and when you do get to the end, like a lot of his movies, it's a very satisfying conclusion, and I loved every single second of it. All-star cast once again. You got Kurt Russell, you got Samuel L. Jackson. I just think this was a phenomenal movie. Maybe a tad bit long. If it was shorter, maybe it'd be even higher up on this list, but that's where I have to place this movie just because I loved every single second of it. Sliding into the top 3 is going to be Pulp Fiction. Now, Pulp Fiction, there's nothing really bad I can say about this movie, It's a really great movie. The only reason it comes in third place is because I have more enjoyment out of the top two. But this Pulp Fiction, he has a way of creating different stories at different times, and by the end of the movie, he beautifully wraps up all the stories in a nice little bow, and I think it was perfect, and I think no one else could have done it better. There's nothing else to really say about this movie. It's Pulp Fiction. Our runner-up is Django Unchained, and this is Quentin Tarantino's take on a Western, and I think he absolutely nailed it. Action-packed. It's also got his Tarantinisms with his dialogue, and I just had a ton of fun with this movie. I think this is Leonardo DiCaprio's one of his best performances I've ever seen, as with Christoph Waltz, also one of his best performances I've ever seen, and it's very rewatchable. I just had a ton of fun with it. But coming in first place is Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, not only is this my favorite movie from him, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. More so a hangout movie rather than a movie based on a story. And I just think it's a great time. I've rewatched it, and every time I rewatch it, it's just fun to hang out with these characters and see their journey through Quentin Tarantino's made-up Hollywood. And I think he did a fantastic job of making this movie. I think this is his best well-written and his most polished, and I think it's his best movie, and it's my favorite movie. You got Leonardo DiCaprio, you got Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, all-star cast, and I think no one else could have done it better, and that's why it comes in number one.